Hey everyone, welcome back, and thank you for taking a few minutes to be here today, because right now millions of Americans are asking the exact same question, and honestly, it's a question that can make or break your monthly budget. Is there really a $2,000 payment coming? And if there is, will you actually qualify for it? With President Trump's tariff policies back in the headlines and social media absolutely exploding with talk of stimulus checks, tariff dividends, and guaranteed payouts, the confusion is real, and for people living on fixed incomes, that confusion can be stressful and even dangerous when it comes to making financial decisions. Let me be very clear with you from the start. There is a lot of misleading information circulating right now. I know how frustrating that is, especially if you rely on Social Security, SSI, or a limited monthly income to keep the lights on, put food on the table, and cover rising bills. When you see video after video promising big checks and specific payment dates, it's natural to feel hopeful, but it's also easy to get misled. That's why today we're slowing everything down and walking through what's actually happening, what's being discussed, and what is pure speculation, so you can protect your financial security. Right now, much of the confusion centers around two ideas that keep getting lumped together online. One is the so-called tariff dividend connected to President Trump's trade policies, and the other is the idea of a new $2,000 stimulus payment. These are not the same thing, and neither one works the way many people on social media are claiming. Unfortunately, those details often get ignored because clear, honest explanations don't generate the same clicks as big promises do. Let's start with the tariff dividend idea, because this is probably the most misunderstood part of the entire conversation. When tariffs are placed on imported goods, those tariffs do generate revenue for the federal government. That part is true. What some people have done, however, is take that basic fact and stretch it into the claim that this money will be handed directly to Americans as some kind of automatic payout. You've probably heard comparisons to Alaska's Permanent Fund, where residents receive annual payments from oil revenue. On the surface, that sounds appealing, but here's the reality. The Alaska program exists because it was created decades ago through specific legislation, with a dedicated fund, clear rules, and a defined payment system. Nothing even remotely similar exists at the federal level for tariff revenue. At the federal level, tariff money goes straight into the general treasury, just like income taxes and other federal revenues. It does not get set aside automatically for citizens, and it does not turn into checks unless Congress passes a law specifically creating that kind of program. For a tariff dividend to happen, lawmakers would need to write and pass legislation that defines who qualifies, how much each person gets, how often payments are made, and which agency is responsible for distributing them. As of right now, that has not happened. There have been discussions, comments, and ideas floated by politicians, but there has been no vote, no law, and no signed program. That distinction matters, even if it's not as exciting as the rumors. Now let's talk about the $2,000 stimulus payment, because this is where expectations really need to be managed carefully. During the pandemic, stimulus payments were a lifeline for millions of Americans. Those economic impact payments helped people survive job losses, reduced hours, and skyrocketing costs. We saw one $200 checks, then $600, and then one $400 payments go out to eligible individuals. Because those payments actually happened, many people now assume that any new talk of stimulus means checks are right around the corner. But that assumption can be dangerous. What's being discussed right now are proposals, not laws. Anyone in Congress can propose legislation, and proposals happen constantly. The vast majority never become law. They don't get out of committee, they don't get voted on, and they never result in money being sent out. So when you see headlines screaming about a $2,000 stimulus payment, the first thing you need to ask is whether this is a passed law or just an idea. Right now, it's just an idea. For people on Social Security, this situation is especially confusing because you remember how things worked during the pandemic. If you were receiving Social Security or SSDI, you didn't have to do anything to get your stimulus payments. They were sent automatically. The IRS and the Social Security Administration coordinated to make sure beneficiaries were included, even if they didn't file tax returns. That created a reasonable expectation that future payments would work the same way. The problem is, without actual legislation, no one can promise that because the rules don't exist yet. What we can do is look at history to understand how things might work if something does pass. In previous stimulus rounds, eligibility was based largely on income. Single filers earning up to $75,000 received full payments, and married couples filing jointly had a $150,000 threshold. Payments phased out above those levels. For most people living solely on Social Security, whose average annual income is well below those thresholds, that meant full eligibility. SSI recipients were also ultimately included, even though there was confusion at the beginning. That inclusion was critical because SSI recipients are among the most financially vulnerable Americans. Here's the key point, though. Past behavior does not guarantee future outcomes. Any new stimulus legislation could look very different. Income limits could be lower, eligibility could be stricter, payment amounts could be reduced, or the proposal could fail entirely. That's why you need to be extremely skeptical of anyone telling you that checks are guaranteed or that a specific payment date has already been set. Those claims are major red flags. As of right now, there is no law guaranteeing a $2,000 payment to anyone. There is debate, there are political talking points, and there are proposals, but that's it. The legislative process is slow and unpredictable, and even popular ideas face opposition over cost, inflation, and the federal deficit. Many proposals change dramatically before becoming law, if they become law at all. So what should you actually be doing right now? First, make sure your information with the Social Security Administration is completely up to date. If you've moved, changed banks, or updated your contact information, Social Security needs to know. Creating or logging into your My Social Security account is one of the smartest things you can do. If any special payment is approved in the future, the government will use the information they already have to send it. Outdated information is one of the biggest reasons people miss payments or experience delays. Second, be on high alert for scams. Whenever there's talk of government payments, scammers show up fast. You may receive calls, texts, or emails claiming to be from Social Security or the IRS, asking you to verify information to receive your payment. These are scams. The government will never call you out of the blue asking for personal or banking information, and they will never charge a fee to release a benefit. If something feels urgent or threatening, that's a sign it's not legitimate. I also want to clear up one more major misconception. Tariffs and stimulus payments are not automatically connected. Even if tariffs generate significant revenue, Congress decides how that money is used. It could go toward debt reduction, defense spending, infrastructure, or other priorities. Direct payments only happen if lawmakers explicitly approve them. That's how federal budgeting works, no matter how convincing the rumors sound. The most important thing I want you to take away from this is the need to be an informed consumer of information. Hope is understandable, especially when times are tough, but hope needs to be balanced with facts. Look for information from official sources like the Social Security Administration, the IRS, the Treasury Department, and official congressional records. Be cautious of content that promises guaranteed money without citing actual laws. If anything changes, if real legislation passes, and if payments are officially approved, you'll hear about it from reliable sources first. And then we can talk about who qualifies and what to expect. Until then, protect your finances, update your information, and don't let misinformation drive your decisions. If this breakdown helped clear things up for you, make sure to support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone who needs accurate information, and subscribing so you don't miss future updates when real news actually happens.